Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu Wassalamu ala Rasulullah. So we are verse number 49, chapter number 9, page 99. Chapter number 9, verse number 49. And if you remember, in the previous especially last session, we were discussing the Battle of Tabuk. Battle of Tabuk, people of Muslims, they left Medina. It was a famine. It was summertime and also the harvest time for certain areas. So people were struggling to go to this battle. And Muslims, they were ordered to go to fight the Romans. At that time, there was no continent called Europe. There was no such name. So all the European people, all the white-skinned people who dominated the Europe and Syria and other Turkey and other places, they were called Roman people. In fact, one of the chapters in the Quran is called Surah Rome, from the city of Rome. And we'll come back to that one later. But here, now Muslims were alerted the Romans are going to attack Muslims. Islam was spreading very fast, especially after Makkah's conquest. Makkah was freed. And a lot of tribes who were under the influence of Romans, they were also converting to Islam. And the Romans decided to attack. They said, well, we are losing some of our partners in the Arabia, so we better take care of this issue. And the leader of the Romans were Hercules. If you remember from last week, I talked about that one. So Muslims actually gathered, but some of the people who were hypocrites and some of the other weak Muslims, they didn't want to go. They didn't want to go. It was hot. They didn't want to go because it was famine. They didn't want to go because it was difficult. At that time, you didn't have planes and tanks and cars. You just had camels and horses. It was very difficult. Now, if you have not been to Arabia, I've been there many times. Typically in June, July time, you hit 125 degrees. And remember, there's hardly any water. And how do you travel in 125 degrees? I was there a couple of years ago for Hajj. That day, 2,000 people passed away because they were trying to stay outside in the sun, and they actually had heat stroke. It gets very hot. So here, people were coming with excuses. And these are some of the excuses I discussed last week and I'm going to discuss today. And I mentioned some of these excuses, and these were some of the hypocrites. Remember, we talked about hypocrites in significant detail in Surah Baqarah and many other chapters. So this one individual comes to the Prophet, and multiple individuals, they came up with their own excuses. And he said, you know what, I cannot go to this battle. I really want to go. Here's my reason. Now look at verse number 49. In verse number 49, Allah is addressing these issues, the people who are coming with these excuses. There are some of them who say, exempt me. So they come to the Prophet ﷺ right before they leave the Medina to go to Battle Tabuk. Remember, there were 200,000 Romans who were very well trained and very established. And these Bedouin people have nothing to fight with these Romans. Nothing. There's no match. And the hypocrites, they knew once they go there, they will be wiped out completely. The Romans are going to destroy them. Not a single person is going to come back alive. They knew that. So they wanted to protect their own lives as well. This is their understanding. And also they didn't want to go through in famine and heat and all that stuff. So they are saying, exempt me and do not expose me to temptation. So one person, he says, you know what? Don't take me to this battle. And I'm going to give you his name as well. His name is Jad bin Qais. And he came to the Prophet and he said, O Prophet, I am a lover of beauty, and my people know that I'm very weak in regard to women. I'm a womanizer. He's saying I'm a womanizer and I love beauty. Therefore, I'm afraid to go forth because the beauty of the Roman woman, the white woman here, the Roman people are white people, will put me in sin. I'm going to fall in sin because if I go to this battle. So this is one excuse. This is just an example of this excuse. So Allah is saying, He's saying, do not expose me to temptation. They have already fallen into temptation. Allah is saying they already are in temptation, and hell will surely engulf the disbelievers. By the way, I always say that especially for young people, you are afraid that your parents are controlling you, and you go to the university and you might fall in love into sin and drugs and all that. It's just a matter of time. If you're that weak, you're going to do that regardless. If your character is not strong, you're going to fall into these things regardless. So in Islam, the character building is the main criteria. Build your character for male and female both. Verse number 50, if a blessing befalls you, O Prophet, they grieve. So these are the hypocrites of Medina. They are very sad if the blessing happens, some success happens. But if a disaster befalls you, they say, we took our precaution in advance, and turn away rejoicing. They get happy. By the way, these hypocrites, they created their own masjid in Medina. And Allah ordered, go there and burn that masjid. And the masjid was burnt. They were gathering for all these plans and strategies what to do against Muslims. And these are the people who were very successful. Most of the people historically, the rich people, the successful people, people with power, they don't accept the guidance of God. Most of them. Most of the people who are sitting here, they are not the most famous, and they are not from Elon Musk category or Zuckerberg category or one of those individuals, because they think we are already, we cannot be conquered. We already have conquered. So there's no God. There's no such thing. We made up everything. So here we took our precaution in advance and turned away rejoicing. Verse 51, say, nothing will ever befall us except what God has destined for us. This is a belief of a Muslim. Nothing can harm you until two things. Either God's permission or God's, it's called rida and kada, which means God is happy and God allows that to happen, or God permission is there. So nothing can happen. If I'm driving on a freeway and as a Muslim, we have to take precautions, but at the same time, if something is going to happen, it's going to happen. So Muslims are not coward and people who are afraid of all the time. Muslims are not anxious people. You should not be having anxiety about everything. Have trust in God. We call it tawakkul. Tawakkul in God. Have the trust in God, and inshallah, take your precautions. When something is going to happen, something is going to happen. And then you can figure out the result, inshallah. So, befall us except what God has destined for us. He is our protector. So in God, let the believers put their trust. We put trust not on our spouses, not on the Republicans or Democrats, but in God. In fact, if you look at our currency, what exactly it says? Exactly this verse. In God we trust. That's what the Quran is saying. You must take precautions and trust in God. And if something is going to happen, inshallah, we'll take care of it. Please do not be a coward. Have courage in your life. So verse number 52, say, are you awaiting anything to befall us except one of two things, victory or martyrdom? So these are the two things happen when you are in a battlefield. You either are victorious or you go back to Allah. One of the greatest reward in Islam is the martyrdom. Martyrdom is like and martyrdom doesn't need to be in a battlefield all the time. In fact, a woman in Islam, when she's pregnant and she delivers a baby and she gives out life because of the delivery problems, that's martyrdom. When somebody's trying to protect a family member, they die, that's martyrdom. When somebody drowns, that's martyrdom. Islam actually gives you all sorts of, there are a lot of other diseases also. When you're struggling with diseases, Allah also gives you the level of martyrdom. So here Allah is specifically saying those are the two things, victory or martyrdom, but we are waiting God to afflict you with torment, either from Him or at our own hands. So keep waiting. We are too waiting with you. So this is the direct message to hypocrites of Medina. Verse 53, say, O Prophet, whether you donate willingly or unwillingly, it will never be accepted from you. So whenever there's the announcement of the battle, so people had to gather donations to prepare for the war. So this is the answer to those questions in Medina. It will never be accepted from you, but for you have been rebellious people. Those people who were hypocrites. Verse 54, and what prevented their donations from being accepted is that they have lost faith in God and his messenger. And they never come to prayer except half-heartedly, and they never donate except resentfully. So one of the signs of the people with hypocritical heart is when it's time to prayer, they always delay. They always find an excuse to do this and do that. They always say, oh, I have to clean my room. I have to clean my car. So in Islam, that's one of the signs your heart is not at peace in Islam. You have not reached the level where your heart is connected to God. You're going to always, and this is not only prayer, this is for all other good deeds as well. Whenever there's an opportunity to do good deeds, like giving charity, for example, helping another person, you always have something else to do. So be careful with that kind of understanding. Verse 55, so let neither their wealth nor children impress you, O Prophet. So these people in Medina, who were hypocrites, they were very wealthy people. They had a lot of children. At that time, having a lot of children means you have a lot of power and a lot of influence. We probably still have those kind of things. If you look at our own system here, political system, you hear a news and you invest in certain things. In a week or so, you make $400,000. If you have been watching news, you know what I'm talking about. It's all about the information. So if I know this is going to happen, I'm going to pick up Maduro from Venezuela. If I already know, I can bet on that one, maybe $50,000, $60,000. In a week, I'll make $400,000. Do you know what I'm talking about? So this is exactly what Islam is saying. The people had a lot of influence. And with that influence, they were able to. And some of them, especially the leader of the hypocrite in Medina, we have discussed him extensively. He was chosen as the next king of Medina. He was about to be given that title. Then suddenly Prophet showed up in Medina. And he was very resentful. He was very unhappy. And his name was Abdullah bin Abi. And when he was very unhappy, he actually had his own group planning and hurting Muslims in different ways. So neither their wealth nor children impress your Prophet. God only intends to torment them through these things in this worldly life. Now, some of these families who were hypocrites, and again, please don't say I'm being judgmental here. These families survived. And unfortunately, you go around, if you know some political history over there, they are the ruling class of some of these countries. Go and look around them. Without naming any country, because I will be forbidden to travel there. They rule those lands. These are the same exact family. Go back to their families and you'll be shocked they are from exactly same tribe. They have same exact hypocritical plans and everything. And that's why you see how come certain countries, they have all these bases. They're flying from their countries to attack other Muslims. Not only Iran, I'm talking about Yemen and Sudan and Somalia and Palestine. Most of the killings happen because of the help of these people. In fact, one of the countries over there, without mentioning that country, you probably already know what I'm talking about. They actually have spent millions of dollars to create Islamophobia in the US by that country. And in fact, some of the organizations we have here in the US, one of the greatest organizations, ISNA, ICNA, and CARE, and all these, they have given money that these should be shut down. These organizations should be shut down. And they were shut down in Florida and Texas and other places. The cases are in the courts. With the help of these Muslim countries in that land. So that shows the connection between these hypocrites and these people who are the ruling class of those lands over there. So it's something to think about and ponder. So let neither their wealth nor children impress your Prophet. God only intends to torment them through these things in this worldly life. Then their souls will depart while they are disbelievers. So in Islam, the worst of the worst of the worst of the people are not Netanyahus. It is the hypocrites. So the worst people are hypocrites. Hypocrites live their life as Muslims, but they were never Muslims. They are considered as the worst of the people. The worst part of the hell will be filled with hypocrites. They will be thrown in the hell, the first ones. So remember, there are 4 things I mentioned last week, the signs of the hypocrite. If you have one of those signs, it means you're partially hypocrite. God forbid, God forbid. When you say something, it's always a lie. When the trust is given to you, you always betray that person. When you make a promise, you always break a promise. When you have an argument, use a foul language. You have personal attacks. Do you see personal attacks in a White House? Anything happens, it's a personal attack. A reporter asks a question, you're a horrible person. It's always a personal attack. So brothers and sisters, be careful. Do not break promise. Do not say lies. Do not betray other people's trust. And watch your language. Those are the 4 signs of a hypocrite. Inshallah, we'll move to 56. They swear by God that they are part of you, but they are not. They only say so out of fear. So they say these things just to be protected in the city of Medina. Now here, just want to give you the condition of the hypocrites of Medina. Remember, the Prophet was 53 years old. He stayed in Medina 10 years. He passed away when he was 63. So majority of them were rich and old in Medina who were hypocrites. They were well entrenched. They were established in Medina. Now, you find Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir is one of the scholars. He has written a lot of tafseer in his book Al-Bidayah and Nahiyah. The only one that was young and old, none was poor. So all these people were established, older, and richer people. These people had large properties and flourishing businesses in Medina. So they had gardens, date farms, they had agriculture, they had business transactions. Remember, Medina is here, Syria is here. So all the caravans were coming to Arabia, they passed through Medina. Makkah is in the south, and the Yemen is further south. All the transactions are coming through Medina or around surrounding areas. So they were very well established. They were pretty wise, they had wide experience, and they knew how to maneuver and navigate these difficulties. The main dilemma was self-interest. So, again, I like to call it way of life. The way of life was threatened. Suddenly now you have to, for example, give zakat. There's no zakat on poor people. Now if I'm rich, suddenly a religion comes and the system says you have to pay money. In fact, that's exactly what the California state said to the billionaires. They said, well, you have to pay some extra taxes. Already, half of the billionaires have left the state of California. And in fact, you will not believe, from Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos, in a year, they hardly pay any taxes. Their organizations, you will be shocked, these are trillion-plus dollar organizations, they don't pay any taxes. How that's fair? I pay about 25 to 30 to 35% taxes based on that year. These organizations, these individuals do not pay any taxes. Same threat was these individuals. They were feeling threatened. Their self-interest, and when Islam reached Medina, large majority of this population of Medina embraced Islam. They were sincere. They said, yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. There's only one God. We are not going to worship statues, and we are not going to worship other kind of... they were very enthusiastic. These people who were rich and old, they were stuck in that dilemma. Now they had perplexing situation what to do in that particular situation. So their sons and daughters were becoming Muslim. They had enthusiasm about Islam, and they could not remain as non-believers. If they had remained as non-believers, they would be not part of the society anymore. They were outcast. So they wanted to have some kind of balance. So maybe we can tell the Prophet, we are Muslims, but we continue secretly keep our way of life. You see what I'm saying here? That's the definition of a hypocrite. And that's exactly what they did. So they did not sincerely accept Islam because of they wanted to be integrated into the society, but they were also afraid of war. They were also afraid of losing their wealth. They also had that these crazy Muslims in a war, suddenly they're gonna die, then will come back and take the leadership of the Medina again. So that was their intention. So self-interest, their money, also the future aspirations they had. So this is the reason, if you want to understand why these people, why didn't they take a stand against Muslims? Because Muslims, all the youth at that time, they were embracing Islam. And these handful of these people, Abdullah bin Ubay, who was one of their leaders, main leaders. By the way, Rasulullah knew them openly. And he never shared, except one time, which I shared you 2 weeks ago, that he shared the names of these hypocrites to one Sahabi, but he never shared ever the names of these hypocrites because he always believed in mercy, that maybe one day they will become practicing Muslims and good Muslims. So brothers and sisters, look into your own household also. You look at your spouses, look at your own self, look at your own heart. Make sure you don't have the tendency towards the hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is one of the worst sins considered in Islam. Verse number 38, these are some of them who are critical of your distribution of alms, which is the zakat or profit. If they are given some of, given some of it, they are pleased, but if they are not, they are enraged. So when these people, especially we talked about in the chapter number 8, when we talked about the spoils of the war, the bounties of the war, when they received something, they were very happy. When they were asked to distribute or give for Muslim causes, they were very upset. And the zakat in Islam is only 2.5%. If you have $100, you have to give $2.50. If you have $1,000, you have to give $25 in charity. And there are 8 categories. In this chapter, verse number 60 is going to talk about those 8 categories. You can only give zakat to 8 of those people. In Surah At-Tawbah, which is one of those, in fact, I had many debates on this one with the various scholars on this particular verse. And I'm going to come to that verse. But Allah is setting up this beforehand in verse number 58. Number 59, if only they had been content with what God and His Messenger had given them and said, God is sufficient for us, God will grant us out of His bounty, and so will His Messenger, to God alone we turn with hope. So Allah is saying that if we trusted God and had tawakkul on God, God would have given them more. But because, and by the way, there's a hadith that no Muslim can ever become poor by giving charity. That's guaranteed. Whenever I give charity, I typically get about 10 times more, typically. When I give $100, I get $1,000. When I give $1,000, I get $10,000. Allah has never ever failed me. Never ever failed me. So this is Allah's plan, that Allah wanted to distribute the wealth of the rich people to the people who are orphans, people who are widows in the society. Remember at that time, by the way, did we have a social security system before the first and second World War? There was no such thing. There was no such thing as IMF or World Bank or United Nations. These are very new organizations. There were no structures in place. Now, what do you do with widows? Their husbands have passed away in different wars. Let's say in civil war in our country. What do you do with those orphans? There's no system to take care of them. This is 1400 years ago. Now there are, let's say, 100 of young men have died. Now they are young wives with 2 kids, 3 kids. They're in 20s and 30s because people used to get married in teenager age. So what do you do with those people? Do you throw them away in a society, or what do you do? So that's why it is encouraged to marry those women, take care of those orphans, because there's no other system or structure in place. There are no organizations to take care of them. So here, I just want you to pay attention to this one. They were required to contribute the agriculture products, animals, commercial commodities, minerals, mines, gold and silver, and any other wealth, 2.5%. But they were very upset that why we have to pay 2.5%. The poor people don't have to pay anything. The poor people do not have anything to give. So this is why the argument started. Now, verse number 60 is the one I actually have discussed with many different scholars. And in fact, one time I had a debate on this verse, because clearly in verse number 60, Allah says, who can receive the zakat money? Clearly, there are 8 categories. If you try to give zakat money to somebody else, it is not acceptable. There are only 8 categories. And those categories are discussed in this verse here. Now, I know very, very, very well famous scholars. They also say, you know what? I'm going to give zakat money to this cause. It is forbidden. That cannot be zakat money. You can take another charity and you can give that charity for that cause. But zakat money can only be distributed to these 8 categories. So let's talk about that one. Alms tax, which is zakat, is only for the poor and the needy. Now, what is the difference? Anybody knows the difference between a poor and needy? So the poor is who has nothing, no food, probably hardly have any housing, probably cannot take care of their children, probably cannot pay their rent, probably have absolutely nothing. That's a definition of poor in a general terms. The needy person might have their housing, might even have a car, might even have a working air conditioning, but is very much dependent on the basic needs. It might be in so much debt, might not be openly asking and begging for money, might be one of your relatives, might be your sibling. So there's a difference between a poor and needy. So Allah actually differentiates between those two. So zakat money can be given to your own brother. Brother, you have $5,000 debt. I have zakat money. So zakat money should be distributed immediately from you to your immediate family and rest. Then your neighbors, then your extended family, then your community, then the nationwide. Zakat money should not be sent to overseas countries first, should be spent to your immediate family. They should be Muslims, by the way. For zakat, to receive zakat, they should be Muslims. For regular charity, you can take care of them. For regular charity, you can help them. But if they are in debt, you can help them. If they cannot pay for certain food items, you can buy food items on the basis of that one. And also the people who are administering zakat, their salaries can also be paid from zakat money. For those whose hearts are attracted to the faith, these are the new Muslims. Zakat money can be spent on new Muslims. If they are struggling, if their family kicked them out. So in fact, we collect more than 200,000 zakat here. So a lot of money we spend on these causes as well, including helping for people who are new Muslims. They're struggling to pay their rents and those kind of things. You can always go to the office, register yourself, and they can help you out with those things as well. For freeing slaves. Now these days we don't have slaves. At that time it was a very common practice in the world. So a person who actually is indebted, in some societies still happens in South America, in Asia and Africa, you owe debt, they will come and grab you and they will imprison you. So freeing that individual and making them free, that's also, you can pay zakat money for that. For those in debt, and that includes, like I stated, your family or friends who are actually in debt, and you can help them out with zakat money. For God's cause. Now this category here, of God's cause, that's where the scholars disagree. What exactly it means by God's cause? It could mean so many different things. So without going in a lot of detail, so anything which can actually help spread the word of Allah's message. It could be some kind of struggle somebody's going through. It could be, but you cannot pay the zakat money to start a masjid. So masjid cannot receive zakat money. That is a separate donation. So when you give your donation to the masjid, that cannot be zakat money. Now some scholars, they twist this particular category and they say, oh, that could be for masjid or private school. I actually disagree. We have a private school here, Orange Crescent School, and I disagree that zakat money can be given to Orange Crescent School. And I actually fought for 4 years. It cannot be given because that's not one of the categories here. And for the needy travelers, people who travel, at that time, the traveling used to take months or years. So now they don't have a job, they don't have an income. You can help those travelers in the need as well. And this applies these days as well. This is an obligation from God, and God is all-knowing, all-wise. Whenever Allah delivers a very important message, He always says Allah's two names, and those two names are mentioned here. And those two names is Wallahu Alimun Hakim. Hakim, you will hear a lot of Americans, their first name is Hakim. Hakim is the wise, the most wise. Alim is, he's the most knowledgeable. Allah is kind of alerting Muslims, do not change these categories. This might not make sense to you, but He is the most wise and He is the most knowledgeable. Do not say, you know what, I know better than Allah. I'm going to change this category to that category. You cannot do that. Before I end this one, can we give zakat money to our parents? I cannot give zakat money to my parents. Why not? Because I'm obligated to take care of my parents. Can I give zakat money to my children? No, I'm obligated to take care of my children. Can I give zakat money to my wife? No, I'm obligated to take care of my wife. Can I give zakat money to my husband? Sister Feroz wants to give zakat money to her husband who's poor. Yes, she's not obligated to take care of her husband. See the justification of Allah. Can I give zakat money to my siblings? Yes, you're not obligated to take care of your siblings. So can I pay zakat money to my Muslim friends who are struggling, who lost a job, who had a car accident? Yes, you can give zakat money to your friends. And your extended family, your uncle, your aunts, your cousins, you can take care of them. Can I give zakat money to non-Muslim neighbor who's struggling? No, you can give other charity to a non-Muslim neighbor, and it is an obligation to take care of your neighbor, but not from the zakat funds. Zakat funds are only distributed to Muslim community. But there are so many other types of donations which we have discussed in Ramadan extensively. Last thing I want to share with you, then inshallah I'll stop. Now Eid al-Adha is going to come. Eid al-Adha is going to be probably May 27th. May 27th, which is a month from now, it will be a day of Eid. This is the day after Hajj, immediately after Hajj. Now that you must sacrifice an animal. A person who has a nisab, who has financial stability, and I'll post that information in our group, then you must sacrifice an animal. Typically these days, if you sacrifice an animal, it's about $120. And that meat goes in 3 categories, and we'll talk about that next week, inshallah. 1/3 of the meat stays with you, with your family. 1/3 of the meat goes to the poor people in your community. 1/3 of the meat in your family and friend circle. So you distribute in 3 ways. To yourself, 1/3. To poor people in your community, 1/3, and 1/3 in your family and friends. Now, if you do not know any one of the family and friends, then you can actually allow the masjid. Masjid distributes a lot of meat to the poor people. In fact, every week, about 200 families that come and pick up food items from our masjid. Muslims and non-Muslims, the same way. They pick up the meat, they pick up the other grocery items, they pick up cash, they pick up all those things from zakat money as well. So we'll talk about that one inshallah next week.